Thank you for having me. I think, we had shown up to this meeting really concerned about what was taking place in the Gaza Strip, and I'm glad that you mentioned that we were, insisting that there not be any food there. It made no sense for us to sort of break bread while talking about a famine taking place. We had shown up, and the president and the vice president, the national security advisor are in the room, and it was very brief comments by the president saying he wants to hear from us and he wants to listen to us. And so I spoke first, and I let him know that I am from a community that's reeling. We are grieving. Our heart is broken for what's been taking place over the last 6 months. And that the rhetoric that has been coming out of the Biden administration, that's been coming out of the White House, it's frustrated a lot of people, especially people who are Palestinian Americans, Muslim Americans, Arab Americans. We are not satisfied with what has taken place. There has been no concrete steps. But keep in mind, we're very concerned about the people that are over in the Gaza Strip, that are in Palestine right now, who are not just starving, but are facing the threat of a looming Rafah invasion. And so I was able to share that with the president and let him know that out of respect for my community, out of respect for all of the people who have suffered and who have been killed in the process, I need to walk out of the meeting. And I want to walk out with decision makers and let them know what it feels like for somebody to say something and then walk away from them and not hear them out and not hear their response.
Wow. I mean, how did President Biden respond to that?
There wasn't a lot of response. He actually said that he understood. And I walked away. And I think, for me, just like many of the other Palestinian Americans and Palestinians, or as I mentioned, many of the people who are interested in what's going on, we're panicking. I mean, we're talking about 1.7 million people are in Rafah right now. And we heard that there was a UN security resolution that had passed and the U.S. abstained. And we were thrilled about this. But only moments later to have that sort of joy ripped from us when our own White House is saying, oh, it's a non-binding resolution. They're undermining the very UN Security Council resolution that's calling for a ceasefire. Okay, well then let's think about what happens next. Oh, then we hear that there's an arms transfer that's going to take place, and we know that included in these arms transfers are these 2,000-pound bombs that are leveling neighborhoods. I mean, I was in Gaza in January. I saw the devastation of Khan Yunis. I saw Deir al-Balah. I mean, these bombs are wreaking havoc, and people are fleeing to the south, to Rafah, the southern edge of Gaza, bordering up against Egypt. And we're transferring more bombs, more bullets, more fighter jets. What's going to happen to those people in Rafah? I mean, I'm telling you that every single humanitarian aid organization, every single person invested in what's taking place and watching, we are trying to scream at the top of our lungs, please, we cannot allow a ground invasion to take place. We need food to be able to enter and it to be distributed safely. And I'm glad you mentioned the tragic loss of the World Central Kitchen workers who were a part of an approved route. I mean, these are people who are coordinating and just trying to deliver food to hungry people, and they're assassinated in the process. And so there is so much wrong in Gaza.
And it sounds like you don't think that the White House is hearing you. Were you the only Palestinian in that room tonight?
Yeah, I was the only Palestinian American in that room. I think that there were plenty of people who probably declined, but I know that there are many people who I had mentioned who should be present there, who for whatever reason, weren't given the invite. And, it's important to mention, I'm a humanitarian physician. I go to the Gaza Strip. I am a Palestinian American, but I'm not an organizer. I'm not a leader of any local community here. I'm not a part of any organization that I'm the president of. And so even me being selected to be invited to this place, it's not really representative of the diverse community that makes up the Palestinian diaspora. It's not representative of them.
You just mentioned the arms sale. Our reporting is that they're close to the sale of as many as 50 American-made F-15 fighter jets. You were in Gaza in January. You want to go back, I know. I mean, what are your thoughts on what Biden is saying tonight about this strike and about how Israel handled it, and the idea that they're also on the verge of approving that?
Yeah, I mean, it's devastating. And I'm so frustrated and angry to hear something like that, to hear about a fighter jet sale. When we were in Khan Yunis at Nasser Hospital, the second largest hospital, we would hear these fighter jets flowing around. And every time they're ready to release a missile or strike somewhere, you can hear the whistling from that bomb. It's terrifying. And when it hits, it shakes every building around it. I remember thinking that the hospital was going to come crashing down, or shrapnel was going to fly through the window and kill us. I mean, it's totally unacceptable to be thinking that we're going to continue to arm this war, and it's playing out the way that it's playing out, with so many people suffering and so many people hurting. And so, I mean, it has to stop. It cannot just be rhetoric. It can't just be the president saying he's very sorry and demanding answers. I mean, it's been 6 months of incident after incident, aid organization being hit, people who are fleeing places being killed, Palestinians who are very hungry, trying to access flour convoys, ending up in body bags. I mean, it's incident after incident, and it's time that we take a firm stance and we say there can be no invasion in Rafah, that aid needs to enter from all land crossings, and that organizations that are on the ground need to have some safety and security. And hospitals cannot be targeted. I mean, 400 healthcare workers have been killed this far, and many of them have been also arrested. Gaza's becoming unlivable. I mean, there is nothing left there. There's no schools, there's no hospitals, and people are living in tents in a very crammed area. I hope that I'm communicating the urgency in my tone, because it's something that everybody is concerned about across the board. It just seems that the White House has not decided to take that leap and really put their foot down.
Yeah, and I know you gave him a letter from an orphaned 8-year-old little girl living in a tent asking him to end this war. Dr. Thaer Ahmed, thank you for